Welcome along to the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's round 21 in season 15 in the Wheel2Wheel Racing AL2 Championship. This week we're in the most heavily populated city in all of South America, and we've come here to race at one of the greatest racing venues in the world. It's Interlagos here at Sao Paulo, a place where we've seen so many iconic moments throughout Formula One history, and it's a track that consistently produces brilliant racing. The Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, a 2.67 mile circuit with 15 corners, 9 to the left and 6 to the right. There's 2 DRS zones. We'll likely see a lot of overtaking into the San S at turns 1 and 2, as well as into the Cida del Lago at turns 4 and 5 using those DRS zones. We're going to have 71 laps of racing after qualifying today, and the tires are the hardest in the Pirelli range, C1, C2, C3. The softs only the quickest by about 0.4 of a second over the mediums, and they're only about 0.9 quicker than the hards, so not a huge difference in pace between the tires today. And that'll make for some great battling on track no matter what strategies our drivers go with. We are underway here in qualifying. Some drivers already coming out of the pit. We look forward to another great race here at Wheel2Wheel Racing.
Yes, Matt, we've got some overcast weather for the qualifying session, and we're going to have a dry start to the race, but we should see some showers in the middle.
Ooh.
So we have Appleplex for Mercedes out first. We will ride on board with him for his first flying lap as he opens his DRS coming down the start-finish straight. Should be up to about 200 miles an hour, coming down, braking into turn 1, coming down the Senna S into turn 2, and you have to watch your track limits there as Appleplex has already invalidated his lap and now he's backing off. So who else can we go on board with, because he is now set off as invalidated from that lap. It looks like his teammate is the next on track to begin his flying lap, so we will wait a moment for Bannister to come round to start his flying lap. So weather should have a lot to play. It's not uncommon to rain in Brazil, so we'll see how that affects the driver's strategies. So again, as we try again, we've got the Mercedes car of Bannister coming down the start-finish straight with his DRS open. Again, should be over 200 miles an hour coming down into turn 1. So heavy braking, downhill down here into the Senna S, turn 2. Again, you have to watch your track limits as we come round turn 3. Curva de Sol down the Reta Aposta with DRS assistance. Heavy braking now down into turn 4, which is the Cida del Lago. And again, he's running pretty wide there. Coming round turn 5 into the midfield, into the infield section now. Turn 6 and 7, climbing uphill, heavy braking, slightly off camber here into turn 8. Difficult to get the traction here on turn 9 because this is a very up and down section. And then turn 10, Bica de Pato, named after a duck's bill. And then we're coming down into Magulio, which is turn 11. Obviously some famous action came down here in Junco. You need a good exit here because you've got a long series of corners, which all should be flat out. Need to pick a line, a path with the least resistance. Coming down, DRS assistance again to the start finish straight, and Bannister puts it on provisional pole with a 108.5.
Yeah, pretty smooth lap from Bannister, but I'm sure he'll be able to build on that and improve his time later in the session as Old Dads and CHM both put in their first laps, a 108.7 and a 108.8 respectively.
Old Dad's on the medium tyres, so that is a respectable time in comparison to the other two in front of him on the softs.
Yes.
Dastardly just pipping up into second place with a 108.6. I do think we will see some 107s here, just breaking into the 7s as we come to the end of qualifying, as the track sort of rubbers in.
Yeah, Mikey, our champion of this season in AL2, starting his first lap. He's on a set of mediums, but as I said, not a huge difference between the mediums and the softs at this track compared to others. And Bannister improves his time right around the 108 dead mark.
Yeah, I can see that soon being in the 107s, as I say, but Mikey on the mediums, so he's probably looking to take these mediums to that bit of weather that we've got forecasted. So I think that will be a game changer for everybody's strategy, because the soft runners at the start of the race, they might run out of soft tyres and have to pit before the weather and then pit again when the weather comes, or Mikey might be able to stretch their mediums out until the weather comes.
Yeah, and the softs do get good life around here. They can get up to 32 laps out of a stint of softs, so there's a possibility of stretching the softs into whenever the weather comes, but of course, nobody knows for sure when the weather will come. But Mikey putting it into P5 on his set of mediums.
So what's the time difference between the mediums and softs again? Sorry, Matt.
A little over 4/10.
4/10.
0.46.
So I think Mikey will be looking to improve on his time then on that basis.
Yeah.
Bannister and Dastardly will be looking to put on a good show here today, because their second position in the driver's title is still up for grabs. Let Down Estate going out on some medium tyres on his outlap now, looking to see where he can put his car in this Brazilian Grand Prix during this qualifying session. Appleplex has just started his flying lap for the second time now, seeing if he can get round within the track limits to set a valid qualifying time. So we've got 9 cars on track, so any of these cars just need to finish the race to score some points here. As we said previously, the drivers and constructors titles are all wrapped up, but there are still positions to be changed, and a show of muscle for next season for some of these drivers. I think there's a lot being shown from Sega to Cos. He's shown us quite a good bit of talent recently. He's got podium 3 out of the last 4 races.
Yeah, he has improved massively over the course of the season as Appleplex goes 6th fastest, but Sega to Cause will be one to watch next season if he can continue to improve, continue this fine form. He can be consistent over the course of the season. He might be able to challenge for a championship in season 16.
Yeah, it's 52 points left up for grabs, and he is only 65 behind Dastardly, so he can't make the position, but he's not that far away. But next season there'll be more points up for grabs as Mikey and Bannister possibly move up to AL1, so that will mean more points on offering for the rest of the drivers. As a letdown estate now comes across the line on a set of medium tyres and sets a 108.9, not far behind our current AL2 champion.
We have Dastardly on his second flying lap, setting a purple Sector 1. It was smooth sailing so far for the Ferrari driver. He comes into the infield section. Very tight and technical Sector 2 after really Sectors 1 and 3 are mostly flat out, but this Sector 2 is just so difficult to get right. Some heavy braking, a lot of tight corners. But Dastardly looks like he's managed it well as he comes into Sector 3.
Yeah, coming round Junko. Let's see what time Dastardly can set for Ferrari on these soft tyres. That's a very nice time.
Into P2, and he got a purple Sector 3, so purple Sectors 1 and 3, but Sector 2 maybe just not quite where it needs to be to snatch pole off a Bannister. And we've seen in the past, dastardly in that Ferrari likes to have a straight line speed that makes it very difficult to overtake him, so maybe he's just sacrificing a bit of downforce, which will cost him in that middle sector.
Yeah, that would explain his Sector 2 time being off or down from Bannisters. But Sega, he set a 109.2 on a set of medium, so still a respectable time. He did just set a purple Sector 1, but we'll stay on board with him to see how this lap goes. The thing with the medium tyres, you could do a couple laps in qualifying on these, and this won't cause too much damage to the tyres. And sometimes the medium tyres take a while to wear in so that they can reach their prime performance. And these 2 temps up on his time. So he's looking to be somewhere between 7th and 8th if he can carry that speed through. And he does, he gets it up into 7th with a 108.9 on the medium compounders. 108.9 is quite, looks to be the benchmark for the medium tyres. There's quite a few drivers have set their times on that.
Yeah, he split the other 2 medium runners that we've seen, Mikey and Let Down Estate. They're all right there within a tenth of each other. Be interesting to see if they elect to set a lap on the softs here as we come toward the end of the session. Still time for one more run.
I mean, that's it. Some people will be driven by the strategy of there's going to be rain in the middle of the race, wanting to start on the mediums, but when they see that they're in 6th or 7th place and they want to be further up the field starting on the grid, it creates that temptation to put on the softs and set a faster time.
Yeah, especially when you think about the fact that there can be over 4 tenths made up just from being on the soft tire, and you look at their times, that could move them all the way up to 3rd at the moment if they set the same lap on a softer set of tires. They just have that much more grip. It'll help them improve their time by that much margin. So we have Bannister coming through Sector 1, setting a purple Sector 1.
Yeah, he was 28 thousandths quicker than his previous best.
This is where a lot of time can be made or lost, though, in this second sector.
Yeah, all the banks and cambers, they all have play with the traction. You have to be super careful when applying the power coming out of these corners. Coming around Maguglio, and he is now over 2 tenths quicker in Sector 2.
Yeah, purple Sector 2, purple Sector 1, and he looks like he took turn 12 well there, so just flat out for the rest of Sector 3, and he's improved his time, a 107.781.
That is an incredible time.
Big gap now between him and the rest of the pack.
So who else do we have out on track? Sega is just pulling up to let Bannister go, which is another great thing I like about this league, is there was a lot of racing respect shown from a lot of the drivers. Dastardly setting a purple Sector 1.
We saw him struggle in Sector 2 on his last run. Let's see if he can put in a more competitive Sector 2 time this time round.
I mean, that's it. It's all about strategy, as you say. The Ferrari likes to run with more straight line speed, which will hurt in Sector 2. He's now 74 thousandths up on his time, but not purple. So he is going to improve on his personal best, but is he going to get close to threatening Bannister? Ooh, and he doesn't improve very much at all, only 31 thousandths of a second. But still, a good running, because that's holding up second place. And as we're coming to 2 minutes before the end of the session, people have to get out of the garage if they're wanting to set another time, and there isn't that many people out on track right now.
We do have Mikey, though, starting a lap on the softs, so that will be one to watch.
Clearly not happy, being the champion, starting down in 7th place. And a purple Sector 1. Nearly 4 tenths up on his previous time. So if he can follow that 4 tenths each sector, that will bring him close to Bannister's time. But it's going to be a big job to do.
Second sector is where he's going to enjoy a lot more grip on those soft tires than he did on the mediums.
Yeah, he looked like he was struggling in traction in that infield section. And he's 6.5 tenths up on his time come the end of Sector 2, so he's already beaten his 4 tenths deficit from the medium tyres. But is it going to be enough to contend with Bannister's time?
Oh, puts it on the front row, a good lap, but not enough to challenge Bannister.
Knocks Dastardly off the front row.
Sega to cause. The only car on a flying lap at the moment, just 30 seconds left in this session. We'll see what Sega to cause can do. It's a purple Sector 2.
It is 5 tenths up on his previous time. He looked like he was going to go into the pits then. He was.
What can Sega do? He can put it onto the second row. A 108.3 for Sega to cause.
Fantastic time there. 6 thousandths of a second splits him and the Ferrari of Dastardly. That is impressive. Dastardly will be kicking himself having not done that little bit more in his qualifying session to stay on the front row. Because Ferrari still have threat from the Mercedes garage on their second place in the Constructors' title. And not just that, Dastardly also has an opportunity to jump Bannister in the drivers' standings also. 34 points behind and 52 points up to grabs. It is possible that Dastardly can jump Bannister and take second in the drivers, but with the show as it is, Bannister looks to be the one to beat here at Brazil.
Yeah, and we spoke briefly about Sega to cause and how much he's improved. And as you say, Bannister and Mikey likely making the jump to AL1. And look who's leading the rest of the pack. Sega to cause in third. So when those two go up, looks like it might be his championship next season if he can continue this form. It's been so impressive over the recent weeks.
I remember the Williams cars did start strong this season. I remember talking commentary about them with yourself. I think Britain, they was putting on a good show at the start, if memory serves me right.
Yes, I think Monza was another one where they did themselves proud.
So that is our Brazilian Grand Prix qualifying session coming to an end, and we have Bannister on pole with a 107.7, which is a phenomenal time, the only car to be in the 7-second zone. And then we have second place with just Mikey, third is Sega de Cos, fourth is Dastardly, fifth is CHM, sixth is Appleplex, seventh is Old Dad's Rule, eighth is Prev, and ninth is A Letdown of State. So only 2 cars running on the medium tyres. So now here at Wheel to Wheel we have a 5-minute break between qualifying and the race as we are going into a 100% distance race, and typically this is where I will go through the driver's standings to fill in this little 5-minute gap. But as we've already mentioned, the drivers and constructors title has been claimed by the Renault crew. But I can tell you that the driving standings at the moment, Mikey is obviously top of the table, unreachable as the AL2 champion, and he has 14 podiums, 4 wins, 5 fastest laps, bringing him a total of 342 points. Bannister is still under threat from third place, and he is in second with 12 podiums, 3 wins and 1 fastest lap with 268 points, which is 74 behind Mikey. But just 34 points behind him, we have Dastardly with 8 podiums, 2 wins and 2 fastest laps, and 52 points up to grabs in this race and the next. Means Dastardly does have the opportunity to grab that second place from Bannister. So I want to mention that Sega, as we were saying, his progress through this season, of the last 4 races, Sega has been on the podium 3 times, bringing his season total to 6 podiums, 7 fastest laps. And he's yet to win a race here at Wheel to Wheel, but it doesn't seem that far away looking at his performance this season. And he's only 65 points behind Dastardly, which with only 52 points to grab, is not able to overtake him, but he can certainly close the gap. But there's also a similar story in the constructors. Renault, unreachable, with 15 podiums, 4 wins, 5 fastest laps. They've got a total of 466 points. Ferrari are 103 points behind, so they're unable to catch Renault with 9 podiums, 2 wins and 2 fastest laps. That's bringing them a net total of 363 points. But Mercedes, with 14 podiums, 3 wins and 1 fastest lap, they are 37 points behind Ferrari with 326 points to themselves. 88 points to grab for the constructors. So very possible for Mercedes to overtake Ferrari before the end of the season. So what else do we have to talk about? I can tell you that the qualifying time last season here was a 108.9, and that was absolutely smashed. I think every single car in this session beat that time from last season. And the fastest lap in the race was a 110.6, and that was set from Ruslad. But Mikey was the top finisher of the remaining AL2 drivers. The other drivers moved up to AL1. So Mikey finished ahead of Dastardly, and Dastardly finished ahead of Bannister last season. So who will come out on top today? What will the weather do to people's strategy? Will there be many safety cars? We typically do see 1 or 2 here in Brazil. The first sector does bring a lot of action.
Especially if the weather comes into play. A lot of rain here in Brazil. It always seems to play a factor. Especially in this game, I feel like it rains more than it's sunny. Especially doing 100% races. So we'll see how our drivers can cope with that. Just to let you know, having some technical difficulties getting my stream up, so you have the lone stream for this race.
Got a comment on my stream from Charlie Fluff saying, never mind that, who won the most races last season? I honestly don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I haven't got that to hand at the moment, but for the next race I will have that information on hand for Charlie Fluff on who won the most races last season.
Was it Pezzarino, maybe?
Possibly. He was at the top quite a bit.
It was. I saw him towards the top in the few races that I saw.
He did win the Brazilian Grand Prix last season. Riker was also up there quite a lot. It was very much the Pezzarino and Riker show last season. But what I can do, actually, is I can, as nobody else has pressed go yet, go onto our Wheel2Wheel forum site. We have an archive where we've stored all of our information from the last 14 season, this being our 15th season. So I can tell you what the standings looked like at the end of season 14. If nobody presses go just yet. Is there anything else for you to fill in with, Matt?
No. Just discuss the track and how awesome it is. Always produces great battling, and it's the nature of the two DRS zones, I think, really produce back and forth battles. Is that if you get a move done into turn 1, you're really in danger of losing that place right back down into turn 4 to see to Lago because of that second DRS zone being immediately after the first one. So we'll probably see a lot of that back and forth action today. I know we saw a lot of it Wednesday, just passing and passing back and forth all race long. And with some of the racing that we've had in AL2 this season, I fully expect we're going to have some great battles to watch here. So our drivers are underway on the formation lap. Bannister leads the way.
So just to answer that question before we go into our Brazilian Grand Prix, it was Gogs who has the most wins from last season.
Ooh.
And that was 7 wins last season. No, sorry, 8. 8 wins. And that's just probably made me figure out who Charlie Fluff is. So, hello Gogs, and thank you for the comment. So what lap are we going to see this weather? Who are we going to see on top? Have the drivers got the right strategy for this race? Have they got the right setup for the weather? So yeah, let's see.
Wednesday we saw a lot of our soft runners in the first pit around lap 20. So if our drivers will have to stretch their tires due to weather going any further than lap 20, they won't be feeling too good on those soft tires, but we will see what the weather does. It looks sunny now though. Our drivers coming back into their grid positions. The top 2 in the championship on the front row once again. It's Mikey in second, Bannister in first will lead the charge down into turn 1. Boogity, 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 let's go racing at Interlagos. We are underway as Bannister leads the charge down to the NS. Mikey's got a better start this week than he did last week, and he's challenging Bannister into turn 1 and maybe a little bit of contact. And then Dastardly trying to make up a position behind, but Sega to Cause holds in third.
Yep,
Mikey
nice
pulling alongside Bannister into Descida Delago. Mikey's through on the inside. Can he keep it tight? Bannister going a little bit wide, and Mikey takes the lead.
Bannister immediately under threat from Sega to Cos there. It looked like if he left the door open anymore, Sega would have been in.
So Mikey last week starting on the front row and dropping back multiple places through turns 1 and 2. This week, that is not the case. He's got a great start and taking the race lead on lap 1.
Yeah, phenomenal show there from Mikey, just to show you what sort of consistency and cool you need to be a champion here at Wheel2Wheel. Bannister will be looking to reclaim that place, though, but he's got Sega immediately behind him, and Dastardly is not far behind either.
It looks like all of our drivers made it through the first lap without incident.
Old
We
Dads
have
is
Old
having a
Dads
look.
and Prev. Wheel to wheel through the Center S.
Old Dads have the inside line coming through Curve de Sol. And he's in the lead going down Retta Oposta.
Great move from Old Dads there.
Mikey maintaining his race lead here for the lap 2. Bannister ever closer behind. Not willing to let that position go lightly.
Oh, it's Sega getting a little bit loose in the middle sector. It can be so difficult to get the power down.
Yeah, traction is everything on this track. That middle sector is so up and down with the banks and the cambers. You have to get your foot right on the pedal at the right time.
And we're feeling the pressure from behind as we will have DRS enabled on this third lap. Bannister's been able to stay within DRS range of Mikey, so he'll be looking to bring the fight back and take that lead back that he had at the very start of this race. We see Dastardly closing the gap, so we nearly sent it down the inside. But Sega Takaz is able to keep third.
Yeah, a lot of action on track. We got more comments coming in the section from Charlie Fluff, but not something I'm willing to read out on the stream. But if you're wanting to see, come on to our stream on the comments section and have a look. So it's all been pretty settled for these few laps, but now DRS enabled. Will we see any more position change? Bannister very close to the back of Mikey, who's built a gap between him and Sega. Is he going to be able to look at an overtake on this lap?
He is closing it into turn 1. Mikey going defensive and covering off the inside though.
Bannister with his second round of DRS coming down. Riggetta Oposta, is he going to get the job done? No, he's too far back again.
Yeah, Mikey doing well to go defensive into turn 1 and into turn 4 there. Oh, but Bannister sending it around the outside.
What a phenomenal move. I'd never expect a move there. That was incredible.
Wow, what a move from Bannister, and he retakes the lead. I don't think Mikey was expecting that.
No, I thought Mikey had thought his defending was all done.
So then, Mikey will have to do the attacking this time around. He's got plenty of overtake to work with, and he'll have DRS as they climb up the hill back towards the start-finish line.
Few cars now will have overtake and DRS. Old Dad's winning himself the fastest lap. Sega defending that position from Dastardly. Prev went off track trying to take a letdown estate, but he's on the center S. He's on the inside, but he's managed to keep all of his wing back on track now. A few seconds behind, but he can resume with his race. So Bannister able to defend this first sector from Mikey. Both cars on the soft tyres, so how far in this race can they take them? When will this weather be coming into play? Sega still under threat from DRS of Dastardly, but Dastardly also needing to defend from CHM. And Dastardly's just dropped out of DRS range of Sega. So who to watch? Mikey is closing the gap to Bannister.
Mikey can get a good exit here onto the second DRS straight. There might be a move into the Cita del Lago.
Bannister had some great exit speed there. I don't think he's going to be able to get the job done.
Mikey not able to close the gap as we move further back. Sega still fighting off Dastardly.
Old Dads, he dropped to last place at the start of this race, but he's managed to climb up another 3 positions, but he's still under threat from Appleplex, but manages to keep the position.
Old Dad's making his way through the field despite being on the mediums.
I don't know what happened to him at the start, but he lost two positions at the start, but he's made them back and then some.
Mikey keeping within DRS range of Bannister in front. CHM staying right on the back of Dastardly throughout that lap. He'll have DRS as well. We move up front and Mikey had a look at the inside. Bannister covered it off. Mikey had to back out into turn 1.
Mikey looks a bit closer on this occasion.
He's not using his overtake at this point, and Bannister placing his car well there right in the middle of the track, making it difficult for Mikey to commit.
Mikey was that much closer this time. Bannister had to choose to defend. These pair now building a gap between them and Sega of 2 seconds whilst battling. Normally battling would cost you time, but these two are able to do it and increase the gap on the cars behind. Sega doing well to fend off the attack from Dastardly, but Dastardly equally looking for the attack but also looking to defend from CHM, who are still in DRS range from behind.
Yeah, Dastardly's done well to close the gap this lap though. And he's going to have DRS down the main straight. Dastardly using all of his overtake and going for the move. Before they get to turn 1, he's in front of the Williams. Will Sega Takals have an opportunity to come back at the Ferrari here? He's right on the back of him as they come out of the Senna S.
Another DRS zone here means that if you overtake on the first straight, you've got to defend on the second.
Oh, and Sega Takals got very close to the Ferrari there, but he's not able to get the position back. So Dastardly up into 3rd.
Some good driving from both of them there. So a few position changes here at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Sega very close to the back of that Ferrari car.
Oh, you see him dealing with some dirty air there. Corner that's usually easily flat out. Just went a little bit wide. And that might have cost him some valuable tenths. Still got DRS though as they come down the main straight.
He's got DRS, but he's nowhere near close enough for an attack. But his DRS will help him stay clear of CHM from behind. But as we know, the Ferrari car of Dastardly does like the straight line speed, so even without DRS assistance, he's able to comfortably defend from that position as Old Dads picks up the first 3-second penalty of the race.
And riding on board with CHM, you can see 2 cars in front. He's comfortably just sticking with these 2. CHM will be enjoying this.
Losing a little bit of traction on the back there.
I think if you're CHM, you'll just want to sit here and wait to see if Sega and Dastardly start battling again. And then an opportunity might present itself for the Renault to make a move.
Sega, with mountains of overtake and a good exit, has meant that he's on the back of Dastardly now. Dastardly will have to move to defend on the inside. Sega having a look on the outside. Can he get the job done coming into turn 2 after the Senna S? No, he can't, but he will have DRS assistance. Dan Retta Oposta, can he get the job done down here? Dastardly moving to the inside, but Sega is too far back. He can't get the job done.
And he's not using his overtake for whatever reason. I thought he might have an opportunity there into the seat of the Lago, but elected just to stay behind the Ferrari and bank for another lap. I think Sega is the more comfortable of the two in this middle sector. He's having no problem sticking right on the back of the Ferrari despite having dirty air to deal with.
And as I say, Dastardly does not have much of his overtake left, whereas Sega has got mountains in comparison.
Then we jump back up front, and Mikey is using a little bit of overtake to close the gap to Bannister. He's within half a second as they come up the hill to the start-finish line. Mikey having a look at the inside, then sending it round the outside, and they're wheel-to-wheel through the ZS. And Bannister coming out with the inside line in front, and Bannister will have DRS as well to run away from Mikey.
That was incredible stuff. It was like Mikey decided not to brake for the corner, but still managed to get round.
Yeah, great move from Mikey around the outside, but he wasn't able to make it stick. And DRS helped Bannister down the second DRS straight, help him keep the lead.
Fantastic show of talent from these drivers. These are why these two are at the top of the table. But closely behind, 3.5 seconds, is Dastardly. Sega dropped back a little bit that lap. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but Old Dads has managed to close the gap to CHM, so Old Dads is now included in this battle. Sega's dropped out of DRS zone, but he's got a full tank of overtake, so I'm not sure what's...
And he went wide at turn 11 once again. He's been struggling with that corner with the dirty air. Mikey's still looking at the back of Bannister, not able to make a move this time round. Sega had momentarily gotten back within that 1 second window. If he can make up a little more time in this middle sector, he'll be back in a position where he might be able to have a go at Dastardly. But Old Dads is now right on the back of CHM.
What was our tyre life for the soft tyres? When are these guys going to be looking to change tyres?
You go a maximum of 32 laps, but on Wednesday we saw most everybody pit around the 20 lap mark on the first stint, obviously using the same set of tires from qualifying, so they're not fresh at the start of the race. But Old Dad's getting a great run up the hill using that DRS. He's gonna send it up the inside at the ZS.
Yeah, great move there, and he's certainly making his way through the field on his medium tyres.
Going side by side through the seat of the Lago, Bannister's able to keep it round the outside. Can Mikey make a move round the outside? No, he backs out, and Bannister keeps the lead once again. And Sega Takals, meanwhile, has closed the gap to Dastardly again, just a couple of tenths back. Great stuff in the opening laps here.
So DRS and lap 14, can anybody get an overtake done? Mikey's pressed his overtake button. Bannister does have more ERS in the bank than Mikey. But incredible speed as Mikey gains on Bannister coming down into turn 1. Coming round Curva del Sol. DRS open. Can he close the gap on Bannister anymore before turn 4? No, even if he's in Ricciardo's car with Ricciardo's brake pedal, he hasn't been able to get the job done this time. But as you say, Sega still on the back of Dastardly, looking to get that potential podium place to add to his tally of 7 podiums this season. As you say, Dastardly suffering through this second sector. Sega is right on the back of that Ferrari car, which will only help him when he gets DRS assistance to counteract the straight line speed of that Ferrari.
Sega getting on the overtake button immediately as we come into the DRS zone and up the hill. He's closing the gap on the Ferrari. Not enough to make a move into turn 1, I don't think. Oh, but he's sending it up the inside anyway!
Fantastic move! I don't think Dastardly was expecting that, but all this time Mikey has got close to Bannister and he's sending it on the inside before turn 4.
He's ahead as they come into the Descida del Lago. Mikey retakes the lead. Bannister trying to fight back.
Incredible show from these drivers here. And all in that effort, Mikey must have saw some track limit somewhere and the stewards have given him a 3-second penalty.
Yeah, I think he might have gone outside the white lines somewhere in the Sanas, but in doing that, he might have gotten a better exit, which saw him get a great run down the second DRS straight. But
Bannister has not gone far back. He is still in DRS range and still a very physical threat to Mikey on this lap. But Mikey's pulling over. No, I looked like he was going into the pits then. But he stayed out. Bannister sending it down the inside of turn 1.
Oh,
Mikey hanging around the inside.
Trying to fight it back. Bannister will get DRS once again. He's gonna try it down the inside, late braking, and he is through! Back into the race lead! Meanwhile,
15 laps on these tyres, but there's still plenty of life for them to battle.
A letdown of State and Prev going wheel to wheel into the Descida del Lago. Prev trying to keep it steady on the outside, but a letdown of State. Oh, and he's made a little bit of contact there and a letdown of State. Gets back into 8th.
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of some bumping rubber there.
Don't think there's any damage taken by the Red Bull there, but he had to go off the track.
Prev doing a fantastic job to retake all that time lost from the start when he had that off into turn 1.
Now then, Mikey just 4/10ths back, getting on the overtake button early as they come into the second DRS straight.
Yeah,
he's closing the gap very quickly.
Couldn't decide which side to go. He was having a look on the outside, but Bannister's able to keep the position on the inside.
He's gotten a great run as they come towards the horseshoe. But Bannister's able to keep the race lead. Just a 10th between Segatakaz and Dastardly, but Segatakaz has to back off here.
But
they come into a heavy braking zone, but he's
deep,
fighting it through the middle sector. Oh, and Segatakaz just struggling with the traction there.
Old Dads has just took the position.
Made his way through.
That little mistake has left the door open for Old Dads, and he was there ready to pounce. Phenomenal
and Mikey
stuff.
Going for it again.
He's already overtaken before the pit entry. And we have people pitting. That looks like Dastardly and Sega both coming into the pits.
Oh, and Bannister's off the track. He's had a spin at turn 1, and that's cost him 3 seconds to Mikey in front. A big mistake from the Mercedes driver.
He looks to still have all of his wings, so he should be okay to try and claim that distance back.
He managed to keep it out of the wall, but just cut a little too much the inside curb coming around turn 1, and had to sort of overcorrect himself back the other way in order to keep it out of the wall. But he did well there to sort of limit the time lost. You can still see our race leader in front, trying to make up the time that he lost.
Prev and a letdown estate still having a go, but Prev's tyres will be feeling worse than a letdown estates will be at the moment.
Now then, another battle as we have Appleplex within DRS range of CHM. But CHM is able to pull away down the main straight. We move back to the Ferrari Red Bull battle of Prev and a letdown of State.
Yeah, but we have Dastardly on fresh rubber immediately behind.
Oh, and Dastardly's gotten a great run up the hill. A purple sector 3 for Dastardly, and he sends it up the inside at turn 1.
Now just his teammate to overtake, but the last time the two Ferraris come down, Retta Aposta, there was trouble.
And he's a bit too far back this time around, Dastardly. He'll be looking to stick to the back of his teammate throughout this middle sector.
His teammate not might hurt him too much in this middle sector, as we know the straight line speed of the Ferrari means that he's not too rapid around this sector 2, but his fresh rubber will be wanting to be ahead. We also have Sega Takazu, who's gone on to a different strategy. He is on the medium tyre, so maybe he thinks the weather won't be enough to change to a wet track.
Now then, Dastardly looking to make the move on his teammate. His teammate blocks him off as he tries to go around the outside. Dastardly with good reactions to switch to the inside and makes his way through down the main straight, but bit of a hold your breath moment there in the Ferrari garage, I'm sure.
It was, and all that's played into Sega's hand as he's able to close the gap to Dastardly a bit more. He also got the fastest lap then.
Prev nearly having a chance to get back at a letdown estate there. It's right on the back of him, but unable to make a move. Sega Takazu will be interesting to see how he deals with this traffic. He's on fresh mediums. Yeah. But surely his tires will give him a lot more grip than the two cars in front who have yet to pit. And he's sending it round the outside of the Red Bull. Can he make it stick? He just backed out of that one. Thought better of it. He'll stick behind until he gets a good overtaking opportunity here.
Yeah, this will be causing pain to the Williams driver's strategy. He's already looking on the inside of Prev.
Oh, and he's through already. I think Prev is into the pits. Can Sega get the Ferrari into turn 1? No, he can't. He'll be wanting to get this move done as soon as possible. He'll have DRS once again. He's got his overtake on, and he's alongside the Ferrari as they come into the seat of the Lago, and he is ahead. Good move from Sega Takazu to get past the Ferrari.
Was not wanting to give that position up easy. He stuck to the outside, but he was still there halfway around the corner.
Yeah, it was impressive defensive driving from a letdown estate being on 20-lap-old mediums, as opposed to Sega's 1-lap-old mediums.
Talking about 20-lap-old mediums, Old Dads has been putting on a good show. He's within DRS range of Bannister.
Wow. This will be the time when those softs are starting to wear a little bit more than that of the mediums. The Old Dads will have the better of the tire situations. As Dastardly putting in fastest lap of the race on his fresh rubber. I think we see now some clouds forming over the track. It was really sunny and beautiful at the start, but as we know, the weather can change so quickly in Sao Paulo, and it looks a bit more dark and gloomy At this point, maybe some rain on the way.
All depends on how heavy that rain can be, because we have seen drops fall on some tracks before and it's not required wet tyres. And I'm beginning to think that Sega, the rain could really play with his strategy here, because he's on 3-lap old medium tyres. Now if he thought the rain was going to be coming pretty soon, you would have thought he'd put on soft tyres.
Yeah, and we are riding on board with Old Dads as he's on the back of Bannister.
Yeah, he is becoming a real threat for the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, just saving that overtake. Not being too aggressive for the time being.
Bannister on his 22-lap-old softs. He has managed to clear a second from that gap he had with Mikey after his little spin in turn 1.
And so both Bannister and Old Dads making up time on our race leader. Maybe soon this could be a 3-way battle. If they can both catch Mikey. I think that might be Old Dad's plan here. That's why he's not been pushing too hard with his overtake. He's just using DRS. He is flipping on that overtake now, and he's closing the gap quickly. As they come up the hill, Bannister pulled over into the pits, so Old Dads will move up into second. What a drive from Old Dads.
Fantastic show of talent. Bannister has been using quite a bit of his overtake, whereas Mikey has been banking a lot, as we typically see from the champion driver.
We have CHM and a Letdown State getting into it once again as they come up the hill. Letdown State just dipped the wheel in the grass there. And CHM with DRS on the inside of turn 1, and he gets through up into 7th.
Yeah, fresh rubber on CHM's car. It's going to be not one of the hardest overtakes he's done in his wheel-to-wheel career.
Yeah, Letdown State doing all he can to defend on his old mediums, but as we saw with Sega Cars and now CHM, just not much you can do when the other cars got that much more grip.
Now what's Mikey going to do? Mikey is staying out. Old Dad's closing the gap still. Clearly his tyres are in a much more prime condition than Mikey's 24-lap-old soft tyres.
So our top 3 are yet to pit. Letdown State has yet to pit. Everybody else is pitted within the last few laps.
This threat of weather has really come into play with some people's strategies. Old Dad's looking to benefit the most from it at the moment, because he's on the longest set of tyres, furthest up the field at the moment, nearly within DRS range of our race leader.
Oh, I think he might if he gets a good exit here. The detection point is now, and he's within that 1 second window, so he will get DRS up the hill. And we continue to close that gap as they climb towards turn 1.
Fantastic show from the Racing Point driver. Is he going to get the race lead by turn 4?
Didn't get the best exit out of turn 3, so Mikey's able to keep it for the time being, but Old Dads can continue.
Even in this position, if the rain comes down and both Mikey and Old Dad's pit at the same time for intermediate tyres, Old Dad still benefits from that. And speaking of rain, I just seen the first few drops landed on the halo of the Racing Point.
Yeah, there is definitely rain. It looks very light at the moment. We'll see if that changes over the next few laps.
So this will be trouble for Mikey because he's now on 25 lap old tyres, but he can't pit now because if he pits now and the track goes wet, he'll be pitting again. But those 25 lap old tyres are not going to be much.
He's at the point of no return, isn't he? He's going to be struggling on these tires, but at this point, him and Appleplex in the same boat. You can't pit at this point because you just got to stretch it out so that you make the switch straight onto the inters. There's no point in pitting now for another set of slick tires because you're going to have to pit in 2 or 3 laps anyway. And the rain getting a little bit harder now. And this will be a struggle for our top 3 on those old tires.
Yeah, you can really see the graining on Mikey's tyres there. Great camera shot there, showing it.
We can see it on old Dad's as well. They'll be struggling for grip even on a dry track, but as the conditions get more damp, they're really going to be having to take care with their right foot or not lose any traction. But old Dad's has got a great run out of the last corner. He's got DRS and he's alongside Mikey as they come up the hill into turn 1. He takes the race lead.
Yeah, Mikey will do well not to fight this one too hard. His battle is not with old Dad's. At the moment his battle is with these tyres and this track, and
I think if Mikey can just keep his car on track and not have any mistakes here over the next couple laps and is able to stretch these softs enough so that he can go straight to the inters, then he can be a little bit more aggressive in attacking old Dad's and trying to get the race lead back. But as you say, his focus now is just going to be keeping the tires alive and not making any mistakes.
Yeah, he's about 18 seconds in front of Bannister at the moment, who pitted whilst on the same bit of track as him. So as you say, if Mikey can go until the intermediate tyres are due, then he will have a pit advantage over Bannister.
Yeah. And Mikey dropped out of DRS range temporarily. He used up some overtake up the hill. But he's back within DRS range and he'll get it now. It's within half a second. But he's not able to challenge.
He's not pushing, he wasn't using any of his overtake, but as I say, it'd do right to not challenge old Dad's too hard.
Yeah.
As Sega picks up a penalty.
I think another thing for Mikey to think about is that his main rivals, Casterly and Bannister, without penalties to this point. So Mikey haven't already got a penalty, and dealing with this lack of grip that he's going to be feeling over these laps, he's just got to focus on keeping it within the white lines to avoid further worsening his penalty situation.
Yeah, and free DRS off the back of old Dad's at the moment will help him keep this advantage at the moment. But Bannister is closing.
Casterly was able to get the undercut on Bannister as well there.
Yes, but Bannister did come off on turn 1 and lost a few seconds there, so that wouldn't have helped him.
Yeah.
So, whilst we're at a quiet moment, let's... Oh, his old Dad's picks up a penalty. What am I trying to find? Position changes. There. So, old Dad's evidently having improved the most on this track. Gained 6 places. Mikey, no position change because he started in second. Appleplex has gained 3 places. Dastardly started in 4th and is currently in 4th. Bannister, unfortunately, he had pole but has dropped now to 5th. But this might still come into Bannister's hands depending how this weather changes the race. If it does change the race, that is. Sega's lost 3 positions, dropping down into 6th. CHM dropping 2 into 7th. Letdown Estate has gained 1 up into 8th. And Prev has lost 1 down into 9th. As you say, still the top 3 cars to pit, and the Letdown Estate, he also hasn't stopped as he's on the medium tyres.
Now, Old Dad's on the mediums is definitely in a better position. As we see now, Mikey really struggling on this lap. But Mikey and Appleplex are pushing right up to the limit. What Pirelli say those tires can do.
I think
the maximum number of laps is 32. So those tires will be right on the limit at this point.
I don't think that's traction due to grip. I think that's traction due to weather. I reckon we'll see some intermediate tyres pretty soon as Mikey's coming in.
What tires does our champion throw on?
Bannister 15.5 seconds behind, so he should take the lead from this pit if he doesn't come in himself.
It is the intermediate tire for Mikey.
Now this might be a slightly premature call, but I think he was running out of options.
Yeah, he's the first of anybody to pull into the pits and throw on a set of inters. We'll see how he gets on this lap.
And he's very gingerly coming out of the pit exit there. Comes out just behind his teammate.
So we will stay with Mikey on this lap just to try and get a feel for the tire situation, if he can stick to the back of his teammate.
He hasn't got the most traction, but I think he's probably got about as much as he had on them 30-lap-old softs.
Yeah. As you say, Mikey really just running out of options there. He was really struggling that lap before he pit. He dropped back 2 seconds from Old Dad's. I think he just felt, even if it's not the perfect time to switch over to the inters, he just had to get rid of those softs. Appleplex staying out lap 32 on those soft tires.
There's still no message of DRS disabled, which is the major sign for whether the track is slick or not. So at the moment, this track is still slick. But the key will be seeing how the time difference settles between Mikey and Bannister. If all cars go to intermediates, where will Mikey be compared to Bannister? That will be the judge on whether that was a good strategy call or not.
And we're seeing now the time difference between Mikey and his teammate CHM. He was just behind him as he came out of the pits, and now the gap is 5.6, now 5.8 seconds, and it's climbing all the time, up over 6 seconds now. So those inters are just not working for Mikey. He's dropping seconds a lap here.
Yeah, this was not a good call, but hindsight is 2020. He did not have very much grip at all on them soft tyres.
Gap over 7.5 seconds. It'll be 8 seconds in the blink of an eye, and it's still climbing exponentially, it feels like, and Mikey will just be...
He's now under threat from a Letdown Estate on 32-lap-old mediums, and a Letdown Estate has overtaken him.
He goes flying by. So much more grip on that Ferrari. And we've seen some interesting strategy calls from Mikey all season, but they've always seemed to work out for him. This time, I almost don't believe what I'm seeing. Mikey down in 8th, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon for him.
Yeah, his strategist has led him down this path of trying to make the tyres last till the weather. The weather came, but the track has not developed enough But Appleplex, 33 laps on them soft tyres, so beyond Pirelli's expectations. I'd love to see the tyre graphic right now.
Yeah, Appleplex will be near maximum wear, and Appleplex is pulled into the pits.
Yeah, Dastardly now inheriting second place from that. But Bannister is behind him, 2.8 seconds.
Appleplex is on mediums.
Well, I think he's listened to Mikey. I think Mikey's probably saying he's got no grip. Because Mikey is now 4 seconds behind a letdown estate who only just overtook him. So we've seen it before on F1 2020 where the rain's coming down but the track is not wet.
I think a big indicator of the tire situation at the moment is that Mikey was ahead of Appleplex when he pit, and Mikey was 18 seconds behind Appleplex after Appleplex came out of his pit stop.
Well,
so he lost so much time, and he's pit again for a set of slicks.
I mean, I can't see Mikey staying in last position, but it's not the battle he thought he was going to be having.
Unbelievable turn of events here at Interlagos. Mikey in 9th.
It's still raining, but the track is not classified as wet just yet. Appleplex now looking at the back of Mikey's teammate CHM.
And I think we thought when the rain started to fall that Old Dad's was in a great spot to have a good stint on the mediums and go straight to the inters, but if the rain doesn't fall a little bit harder than it is right now, then I think he'll be in danger of running those mediums to their limit.
Mikey already claimed a position, and we had a yellow flag for Sega.
Don't see any damage or anything like that. You see Mikey already making his way past Prev, so really enjoying those soft tires a lot more than he was the inters.
I imagine he'll be cursing nevertheless.
Appleplex right behind the Renault of CHM. DRS, I believe, still active at this point.
Oh no, and he hits him! Clearly had that much traction coming out of the corner that he just went into the back of him. Now Appleplex with an opportunity to go straight into the pits, but he doesn't. CHM's in the pits instead.
There is definitely damage on the front wing of that Mercedes.
Yeah,
I think Appleplex maybe just didn't want to pit again, as he had just pit a lap ago.
And CHM onto the intermediates. Maybe there is traction issues.
It's all happening here.
Either that or the Renault strategists need shooting.
Appleplex really struggling and pulling over. Not sure what exactly is going on here.
No, I think that looks like a retirement.
Old Dads is into the pits.
And what is Appleplex doing? Is he intentionally disqualifying himself from this session? He's left the session. No idea what's going on.
So that is Appleplex more or less out of the race. Old Dads, who was our race leader, comes out of the pits in third, and now we'll watch that delta currently at 11.7 seconds to Bannister in front.
I'm just keeping an eye on this Appleplex car because our race leader Dastardly is just about to come up to it, and it doesn't seem to be going very fast at all. Okay, moved out of the way of Dastardly, and now it's hopefully going to move out of the way of Bannister.
I would think it would come into the pits as it's got damage on that front wing, and it does. Old Dad's closing the gap to Bannister. I don't know if that's something to do with the lapped car being in the way, but it certainly seems like this is the time for inters as we have CHM, a letdown of state, Mikey, and Prev all now on the intermediate tire. So Old Dad's looks to have got his strategy spot on there.
Old Dad's with his crystal ball, because if the front two cars pit onto intermediates now, he will be comfortably in the race lead.
And he's closing the gap so quickly to Bannister now.
But Sega...
about a second.
Sega's pitted onto softs.
Oh, I think that may have been a mistake.
He can't even make it out the pit lane.
We saw similar incident last week in Mexico in AL1. McLaren of Droftas tried to pit for inters, and his pit crew put on a set of hards instead, and I think Saget's cause might be a victim of a similar thing.
There we had the DRS disabled notification, and I'll tell you what, Old Dad's has got this game down to a T. Because looking at that, Sega was his next rival, who is 28 seconds behind him on the wrong tyres, and Bannister gets a 5 second speeding in the pit penalty.
Oh no.
And Dastardly stayed out.
Oh no, what is going on in this race? We've seen how much time Bannister's been able to make up on the two cars in front over the course of that lap. Surely the intermediates are the best tire right now. But for whatever reason, Dastardly staying out.
Yeah. Sega staying out also. So he didn't want to pit again.
I wonder how long this rain will be with us. You see Old Dad's continuing to close that gap to our race leader.
I mean, Dastardly's on 20 lap old softs anyway, and Dastardly is being unlapped by Prev.
Yeah, Prev on fresh inters. He's just got that much more grip, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And CHM coming up to the back of Appleplex's car, which will not be doing him any favors.
No, whilst he's got a letdown estate behind him also.
Yeah, there will be blue flags here.
Dastardly has come in. But this is a little problem that we have when people don't retire the car and they just leave the session. Appleplex had a good opportunity to retire the car before he decided to quit, but his car is now on track, solid, which does cause issues.
Luckily, the Renault and Ferrari both eased past it as the AI-controlled car moved out of the way under blue flags. And Dastardly, finally, has pitted for those intermediate tires, which means Old Dad's retakes the race lead. I mean, what a drive from Old Dad's.
By default, I'm sure the game will give Old Dad's driver of the day, but if it doesn't, he's got my vote for the driver of the day.
Yeah. He absolutely deserves it.
He was one of two drivers that decided to go for the medium strategy, as Just Mikey gets another 3 second penalty. So he got the medium strategy on right at the start of the race, and he's carried it through.
And he struggled on lap 1. I believe he was down in 9th.
Yeah, he did lose 2 places at the start, but he soon claimed them back, and now he's leading our race.
It is a worst to first drive for old dads. He looks to be in control of this race as we rejoin the battle with a letdown of State and CHM.
Yeah, CHM had a little bit of a wibble.
Yeah, letdown of State looks to be the more confident of the two at the moment in these conditions. It is a completely different driving style as they get loose. CHM nearly taking out the Ferrari there as he lost control. CHM able to keep it out of the wall somehow.
If you open up the dictionary and look for brown trouser moment, you will see that video clip there.
And it has to be said, great job from CHM to save his car from being absolutely totaled there. He just spun his wheels a little bit too aggressively there, trying to accelerate. Trying to keep the Ferrari behind, and he nearly put himself out of the race, and he nearly took out a letdown of State as well.
Yeah, really good save, but as you say, really good reactions from a letdown of State also to avoid that car. But a letdown of State rapidly catching Sega, who's committed to stay out on these soft tyres.
I do wonder how long this weather is going to be with us if Sega Tsukawa's is not pitting.
No, it's still falling.
I can't see how this would be helping him at all. He's really struggling, and letdown of State goes flying past as Sega now is into the pits. We'll see if he now gets the right tires on.
Yeah, it sounds like, as you described, an error in the game where it's decided to put the wrong tyres on. He's gone in expecting Inters and come out with red tyres.
Yeah.
Do we have any information on the Inters? We've got Chewy asking how many laps will the Inters do? But I suppose typically it's not something that we wouldn't normally look at the intermediate tyres.
I would think they could go to the end from here. Just based off experience and other tracks, because unlike the compounds of slick tires, we only have intermediates and wets. There's not really any rotation between the compounds for our wet tires, so they are the same we use across all tracks, and I think 30 laps should be manageable with the intermediates.
So Old Dad's still leading this race with his phenomenal drive. Bannister holding up second place for now. Dastardly and a letdown of State taking third and fourth, so it's looking to be a good day for Ferrari. So I think if it was to finish as it stands, Ferrari will secure their second place in the Constructors' title. But then also, Bannister will secure his second place in the Drivers, meaning Dastardly will be unable to catch him.
It's not the best day for Renault at the moment. Still a long way to go, but 5th and 6th, you haven't seen them have a result like that. Really, I have to go all the way back to Spain, where they both finished outside the top 4. It is mind-boggling how good they've been.
Yes. Scoring points every single race this season.
I think maybe Austria, Mikey finished 5th, and his teammate finished 8th. That may have been the last time they were both outside the top 4. But Mikey been so consistent all season. He's been in the top 4 all but 2 races to this point, just Spain and Austria.
Yeah.
So it's an uncharacteristic race for our champion, having a big strategy malfunction.
Although again, it was one of them where Mikey's could have easily paid off, just like old dads did.
Yeah. We're used to seeing the strategy calls pay off for Mikey. He's always the one to sort of venture out into the unknown when it comes to strategy. And it normally does pay off for him.
And Prev picking up a 3-second penalty, leaving only 2 drivers not to pick a penalty. And if I was a gambling man, I think money would have gone on them too for not picking up penalties, because typically they do quite well with sticking to the track limits, when that's dastardly in CHM. But yeah, as you're saying about Renault not being a good day, they've picked the right day, because obviously they've got the constructors in the bag, they've got the driver's title in the bag, so there's nothing really to lose here today for those.
Yeah, it's a good day for Ferrari at the moment in 3rd and 4th. Would be their best day since Russia, when dastardly got the win, and the reserve driver Chewy, who drove as his teammate for that day, finished just behind him after a thrilling finish. But a really good drive from both Ferrari drivers so far in this one.
And
especially let down of state.
The rain is still falling, but DRS is now enabled.
It's very interesting. So it looks like we're going to be going back to dries at some point here.
And Mikey is the first in. Letdown Estate and CHM both were the first cars to drive past the pits with DRS enabled, but Mikey is in. And Sega...
Oh, somebody's off.
Sega is broken his wing coming round the last corner.
Luckily, straight into the pits. Oh, but he's got a speeding penalty on top of it. Mikey throws on a set of softs.
Oh, and he's struggling down the pit lane as well. Eager to redeem himself from the early mistake. It looks like he may be slightly early on this one, and he's coming out around by Prev. And is about to be lapped. Mikey needs to move out of the way of the race leader. This is not how we would have expected it to go.
Incredible scenes. Mikey, the man who has been incredible all season, is a lap down in the Brazilian Grand Prix. And we will see now if this tire gamble pays off. Dastardly also into the pits, throwing on a set of softs. He's sticking right with Prev and Old Dads. So it looks like he's not struggling too badly on those soft tires. The letdown state is also in, so I think... Yeah. Oh, and Prev getting really loose, and Mikey into the back of him!
Oh my
God. It goes from bad to worse for our champion, Mikey. So unlucky there, as Prev just couldn't find the traction. Oh my goodness.
Oh. Like you say, bad day at the office. Very bad day.
Oh my goodness. Mikey just can't catch a break at the moment. Is Prev the only man to stay out on the inters after that lap? I think Mikey wishes that Prev would have pulled into the pits instead.
And dastardly with his pit stop strategy. He's coming out. Bannister's coming out behind him, 2 seconds, which is pretty much what it was earlier, I think, if I remember correctly.
When Bannister served that 5-second penalty, so that is a big factor there as to why Dastardly jumped him. But now Bannister has a clear box by his name, no penalties for the Mercedes after he served that 5-second.
Oh no, Old Dad's now on 9 seconds, which will be disappointing if it affects his finishing position.
Yeah, I think both Dastardly and Bannister will be feeling confident that they can get within that window of Old Dad's. As we see Prev and Mikey into the pits. I think Mikey, if he can just finish this race, get it done, he will continue his record of finishing points at every race this season, which is impressive when you look at what he's faced today. So much bad luck.
That's it. I mean, all the way down in 8th place, you know, the AL2 champion is sticking in it. He knows it's not the result he's going to be wanting, but it's, you just need to stay in whether it's a good day or a bad day.
Now then, Bannister getting past the lapped car of Prev. Now there is nothing separating Bannister and Dastardly on the track.
Old Dad's building a lead at the moment. I'm sure that was 11 seconds earlier, so now he's early 12 and a half.
I was expecting that gap to decrease, but Old Dad's showing great pace. He must like it around this track. There have been times throughout the season where he's shown great pace, but nothing quite like this. This is a very good drive from the Racing Point now.
I mean, at the moment, it's a podium to lose for Old Dad's, and it would be his first podium of this season, and possibly his first podium at Wheel2Wheel. I'm trying to recall.
At the moment, he would win with the 13-second gap behind, because he's got 9 seconds, which is a lot, has to be said, but it just shows how big of a gap he's got. He's got a huge lead.
Yeah. Now 13 seconds, and the closer Bannister gets to Dastardly, then the more that's going to play into Old Dad's hands.
Yeah, Old Dad's will be wanting those two behind him to have a good scrap at each other. That will cost them time as they battle for second and allow Old Dad's to pull away that much further. Dastardly's just not able to close the gap under 13 seconds. It's going to be an exciting final 20 laps here at Interlagos, as it always seems to be when there's Formula 1 cars in Sao Paulo. So many fantastic races here, and we've seen another one today. So many twists and turns, the rain playing a part as it always seems to, and a man who hasn't been on the podium all season long is running away out in front. But Dastardly trying to close that gap, trying to get it to 9 seconds, which is the amount of penalties that Old Dad's has out in front. Dastardly and Bannister in second and third with no penalties to their names. Dastardly getting DRS off a lapped car.
Just Mikey is caught up with Prev again.
That lapped car, while Dastardly did get DRS, the car didn't get out of the way at turn 4, so it did cost him over a second. He had to sit behind the lapped car for a couple of corners there. So the gap now about 15 seconds.
And Old Dads with the fastest lap.
Incredible drive so far from Old Dads. But now we move back to our champion, trying to recover what he can out of this race. Yeah, he's coming behind the Red Bull.
Both of these cars coming up to the lapped car as well.
Oh, and Mikey thinking about sending it up the inside, but he chooses to just sit behind for another couple of corners. Maybe he'll have a go.
I think the fact that that lapped car of Appleplex was in play as well kind of made him back off a little bit, because he didn't have the full track to use to his attack.
Prev going on to mediums. CHM also on the mediums. Everybody else on softs to finish this one out. Bannister now within DRS range of Dastardly. A purple sector 2 for Bannister. He's right on the border of DRS range, and I don't think he'll get DRS. He hasn't got it down the main straight. 1.1 seconds separating him from the Ferrari in front.
Just Mikey coming into the second DRS zone. Awfully close to the back of Prev's Red Bull car, and he's having a look on the outside. Can he get the job done? Prev is sticking it on the inside. Mikey having to go the long way round, but he gets that position and he's now up into 7th place.
Great move from Mikey.
Sega also battling the Mikey's teammate, CHM.
Yeah, Sega had a couple of unfortunate incidents here with the pit stop and also taking wing damage, but he's recovering well, and he is up into 5th as he gets past the Renault into turn 1.
Yeah, Sega with the purple sector 3 there, but Old Dad's setting a new fastest lap. So Old Dad's really showing that he is a force to be reckoned with here.
16 seconds! 16 seconds out in front. It is incredible. A dominating performance from Old Dad's.
It's really going to show what kind of an exciting season we're going to have next year with Dastardly, Sega and Old Dads all battling it out for all these points. But Old Dad's definitely showing that he has some form around Interlagos.
I think there's been a few tracks where Old Dad's has had great pace, but he's been one of our drivers who I think has really struggled with penalties for most weeks. And he's managed the penalties today. He's still got 3, but I think that's less than he's had at a lot of tracks this season. And it's still giving him a chance to.
DRS on Dastardly. Dastardly's defending the inside line. Bannister not able to have a look this lap, but second DRS zone. Will he get the job done here? And he's sending it round the outside. Still, Dastardly's hanging in there on the inside line. And Bannister, you could just hear him back off a little bit there, just to allow Dastardly through to try again next lap.
great defensive driving from Dastardly, placing his car perfectly there, covering off the inside, but still maintaining good speed through the seat of the Lago. And he's able to keep that second position, but as they battled, the gap up over 17 seconds now. Nearly 18 seconds as our race leader has begun the 58th lap.
Bannister, same again, having a look. DRS down into turn 1. Too far back on this occasion.
I think Bannister much closer this time around. Trying again, round the outside. Can he make it stick this time? He does. Bannister up into second.
That was an incredible move. It's just like, again, he didn't use the brake pedal and he just made the corner around the outside. It looked almost effortless.
Yeah, not much Dastardly could do to defend there. He did all he could, covered off the inside, made him go the long way around. But Bannister said, no problem with me. Just send it around the outside. But
all this time is playing into old Dad's hands. 18 seconds now. Incredible stuff.
Dastardly's done well to stay right behind the Mercedes, and he's using his overtake as they come up the hill. Dastardly's going to have DRS and challenge right back. They're side by side up the hill across the start-finish line. And into turn 1, the Ferrari goes round the outside and retakes second.
And we know the straight line speed of the Ferrari is pretty phenomenal, so can Bannister have a retake down here again with DRS assistance?
Dastardly with not much overtake to work with, but doesn't matter. He got a great exit onto that straightaway, and he's able to keep second. So Dastardly not giving up here as Bannister had the position, but less than a lap later, Dastardly took it back.
And Bannister doing well, having served his 5-second penalty, because all this would negate the battle in here right now if Bannister was to still have that 5-second penalty hanging over his head. Penalties are racking up for a few drivers. Old Dad's got 9 seconds. Letdown Estate's got 6. Sega has 8. Mikey has 6. Prev has 6. And Appleplex is disqualified from this session, or not classified because he's retired. But Bannister with a purple sector 1, still looking for the attack on Dastardly.
This battle might go down to the last lap, might go down to that last DRS zone up the hill. Just like we saw on Wednesday, it's so difficult to not only hold the position, but it's nearly impossible to pull away from somebody that's similar to your pace because these DRS zones are so powerful. And they can just sit right behind you and then wait for the right moment to make a move. Overtaking back and forth here between Dastardly and Bannister now just sitting behind, saving up a little bit of overtake. Just 3/10 between Dastardly and Bannister.
Great driving from these two here. A lot of racing respect shown between them. You know, they're defending hard, attacking hard, but there's always space for them.
Bannister showing great confidence through the middle sector there, all over the back of the Ferrari. He's right on this gearbox as they come towards the DRS zone up the hill. Bannister with more overtake to work with. He's not using it at this moment. Stays behind as they come through the Senna S. Will he push down this DRS zone? He's got his rear wing open, but still not using any overtake. Old Dads gets another penalty.
Yeah, that puts him on 12 seconds. If he gets one more 3-second penalty, that is an automatic position drop. Now he's got the time deficit, so he can still have his 12 seconds and be the race winner. But if he picks up one more penalty, he will be demoted, which is not what we want to see. I want to see Old Dads claim this victory because it's well deserved today here at Brazil.
Yeah, he deserves this one, a dominant performance, starting near the back of the grid and then dropping all the way to the back on lap 1. Made his way through, got the strategy bang on when the weather came into play, and then he's been able to extend the gap here as nearly everybody on the same tires. Everybody pit within the same couple of laps, and he's just had more pace than anybody else on track.
And Bannister a lot closer this time. He's having a look on the outside of Dastardly. He's not quite got there. Dastardly defended the inside line and managed to keep the position, but coming into the infield session,
around the outside. We saw him pull a similar move to Mikey at that corner early in the race, but I think Dastardly was a bit further ahead than Mikey was when Bannister went round the outside there. Dastardly's able to keep the position. But we go again as they come into the third sector. Just 5/10 between them. DRS again for Bannister. Still no overtake for Dastardly to work with. He's not had an opportunity to save any because he's had the Mercedes right on his gearbox for a few laps now.
I'm trying to figure out if the pace has dropped off at all, but you know, this gap to Old Dads is growing, but then I think the gap to a letdown estate is growing as well. So.
I think Old Dads just has the pace. Because the last couple laps, there's not been that much battling.
I mean,
the next wheel between these two.
The next car in front of Old Dads is a letdown estate in 4th.
What a drive.
So he's lapped half the field. Now we know Mikey's had a nightmare of a race. But Bannister, he's got his overtake and his DRS open. He's looking to claim that position from Dastardly, but Dastardly's been using his overtake to try and stay ahead.
Yeah, no.
Still ahead on this occasion.
Bannister's used all his overtake that he had saved up. Now neither of them have any to work with. I think what works best around this track is you need to have a good bit of overtake that you can deploy through the last couple of corners coming up the hill and try and get the move done into turn 1 and then have enough overtake saved up so that you can do that and then deploy it through the second DRS zone to keep that position.
And Sega, in similar fashion to this season, has just got the fastest lap, a few laps from the end.
Neither of Dastardly or Bannister has been able to save any overtake throughout this battle. Neither has been able to pull away. They've had DRS on each other one way or another for the last several laps. And now is Bannister going to try something around the outside? He had a look.
Yeah, because of that superior straight line speed of the Ferrari, it seems that Dastardly has to brake earlier than Bannister, so Bannister can usually try and use a bit of braking to his advantage, and he's almost having a look around the outside there, but not quite enough speed.
You can see where Bannister has the advantage though. He's so much more confident through the middle sector. But Dastardly with that straight line speed is so difficult to overtake, which is why Bannister's just been sat behind him here for 6 or 7 laps now.
Five laps to go.
And I think, is that Mikey pulling up behind Bannister and Dastardly? You can see in the distance.
That sounded a bit like a, is that Glock?
Would be interesting to see Mikey join this battle, even though he is a lap down.
Yeah.
If he can unlap himself, he can do so, but
yeah, Mikey really has suffered this race. But Brazil never seems to fail to bring the action. My heart stopped for a second there as I seen a 3-second penalty for Prev. I was praying that it was not Old Dad's. Because even if he does pick up another one, he's definitely on the podium. But I think this is deserving of a race win. So we have Sega with the fastest lap, but he is 10 1,000ths quicker than Old Dad's. Old Dad's would have the fastest lap if it weren't for Sega to cause.
Owen Bannister having another look at the seat of the Lago, but can't quite get close enough. But now he's trying it round the outside, round the horseshoe. Can he make it stick into the next right-hander? Dastardly has the inside line. Bannister has to try and switch back on him. But in the end, Dastardly keeps the position. Great driving again from these two.
Yeah, Dastardly's in that inside line and had to go deep to sort of defend off Bannister there. Incredible show of talent. The confidence in Bannister to send this car in the places, in the moves that I don't think half of these drivers would think of doing. Just shows you why he has been the main rival for our champion.
Yeah, I think Mikey is the champion, deservedly so, because of his consistency throughout the season, but Bannister, he's just got that edge about him where he loves an overtake, and some of the moves he's made over the course of the season have just been so impressive. And we nearly saw another one there, but Dastardly defended well.
I mean, the longer Bannister sort of has to battle with Dastardly, as you say, he begins to pick up on Dastardly's weak points, and we know that Sector 2 is not the strongest for the Ferrari car. So he's trying to use that to his advantage, all the braking points where he's just braking that little bit later than the Ferrari has to for the lack of downforce that it has. And for the excess downforce the Mercedes got to be able to send it round the outside is just invigorating stuff.
So we go again with DRS, Bannister closing the gap as they come across the start-finish line. And into turn 1, Dastardly still holding on after all these laps. Just 2 laps to go now. So Bannister running out of time if he wants to make this move.
Yeah, Bannister's really finding the limit of these braking points. Finding the absolute minimum braking distance required for the corners. And he's trying to maximise every corner entry to just get that advantage on Dastardly. You know, as Bannister served his 5-second penalty, they're both battling for position as they are. So the one that crosses the line first as it stands would be the one that takes that position.
And now our race leader has started the final lap of the race. Old Dad's with a huge lead out in front. 22 seconds between the racing point and the rest of the pack. We've still got business to settle here between Dastardly and Bannister. This has to be the moment for Bannister to close the gap, and he's using all the overtake he can. His fuel light is flashing as well. But he can't close the gap enough to make a move into the Cida del Lago. As they come into the infield section, Dastardly's able to maintain second place, and now we move ahead to Old Dad's Rule. Coming out of Sector 2 and now just up the hill towards the finish line to go. Old Dad's Rule shown pace at times throughout this season, but nothing like this. He's been dominant today and he wins the Brazilian Grand Prix. What a drive from Old Dad's Rule.
Yeah, fantastic show there from the Racing Point driver. He managed to cross the line with only 12 seconds of penalties, which means he will keep that race win. But Bannister and Dastardly racing towards the line, neither with any overtake left in the tank, but Dastardly takes that second place. Bannister only able to claim third, but a podium finish, deservedly so. And just Mikey taking the fastest lap on them final seconds of this Brazilian Grand Prix.
What an incredible Brazilian Grand Prix, as it always is. One of my favorite tracks in the world. Always produces drama. We got that today. Old Dad's with a sensational drive. Nobody expected that. He just dominated today.
No, domination from Old Dad's and a fantastic show of talent between Dastardly and Bannister. A very unlucky show for Mikey. Seemed to catch all the wrong moments, all the wrong tyres, all the wrong pit stops. But what a fantastic Brazilian Grand Prix we have had. And as I say, Old Dad's driver of the day.
No doubt.
Much deserved.
No doubt about it.
So now we'll see who we can get in for a post-race interview. Old Dad's up on the top step. An absolutely fantastic show from him today. Really showing us how you can dominate in a Brazilian Grand Prix. Got the tyre strategy just right. Then mediums lasting until the wet weather come. And Dastardly and Bannister, both top AL2 drivers, up on the podium as well. So we run down on our final standings for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Old Dad's Rules with his first ever wheel-to-wheel win here, and nothing quite like a first win like that. Up into second place we have Dastardly. Third place is Bannister. Fourth is A Letdown Estate. Fifth is CHM. Sixth is Sega de Cos. Seventh is Mikey. And eighth is Prev. Appleplex will be disqualified from this session as he disconnected and retired from the session, but leaving his AI car on track. And that brings us to the end of a fantastic Brazilian Grand Prix. I think we have some of the drivers in for a post-race interview now. Matt, who do we have with us?
We have Bannister and Old Dad's. We just quickly remind you guys to go to the party settings and make sure you're allowing your voice to be shared so everybody can hear this interview. And we will start with Bannister. Bannister, you ended in third. You had pole. You looked to be controlling the race
I know, it's terrible.
for a good stint there. And then where did it sort of take a downturn for you, do you think?
I just couldn't hook it up in the wet. Even on the slicks, it was like wheel spinning out of corners. But I had the grip, but just not out of the corners. It was lost a lot of time though, I think. I think I stayed out way too long on the intermediates. But I'm not really sure, to be fair.
Well, originally we think we saw the battle was going to be between you and Mikey, but you seem to have an off at turn 1 on one of the laps.
Yeah, I got underneath his rear wing and lost downforce and just washed out. And then the back end wouldn't come round, and I was like fighting it, but kept it out of the wall.
Yeah, we were riding with you when that happened. You did well to keep it out of the wall. And then you got that 5-second penalty, which I think that might have been the moment when Dastardly was able to get in front.
Yeah, just in front of me, just pit lane speeding, but it happens now and again. So.
And then you and Dastardly back and forth. You gave it everything there at the end. Did you think you were going to be able to get him?
Yeah, it was like a brick wall. Just couldn't get past him. He just defended so well, and I didn't want to, tap him or anything. I wanted it to be clean. So, but it was a really good battle, especially with Mikey at the beginning as well.
Yeah, fantastic show of talent as usual from Bannister. Well done on picking up 3rd place at the Brazilian Grand Prix.
Thank you.
And then now our race winner, Old Dads, are you there?
Yep.
What a drive. That was incredible to see. I mean, we've seen you have pace at times this season, but nothing quite like that. How did that feel?
Yeah, I mean, going into this one, I was kind of a bit at ease because this track was a bit more, I'd say, recognizable, and I was used to it a bit more. But I mean, like from the start, no grip in the front, so I was struggling. I think I went down a couple positions, and after that it was just catch up, really.
Yeah, I think we saw you start in 7th place on the medium tyres, one of the only 2 drivers to start on the mediums, and I think you even dropped back to last place in 9th on lap 1.
Yeah, I just couldn't get from the start any heat into the front tyres, and I think once I was able to, it just full drive, just full pace really for my setup. But yeah.
Yeah, we've seen you soon claim a couple positions early in the session, and then it seemed to be that everybody was pitting and suffering on the soft tyres, but you got your strategy down to a T, lasting for a long session on the mediums at the start.
Yeah, I mean, in the wet, I was a bit struggling with the medium tyres, but once I changed on to inters, I had a couple slides, especially on the main straight where I kind of lost the back end, but as soon as I was onto the softs, I was just trying to put foot to the floor and see how fast I could go.
Yeah, I mean, we saw you get the strategy and the changeover points with the conditions. You got that spot on. And then we thought we were going to have a battle for the lead when Dastardly and Bannister were behind you and you had those penalties, but then you just blew them out of the water and you pulled away. That was incredible pace there on that last stint.
I mean, I was starting to feel pressure and panicking because I was getting warning after warning on corners where I probably shouldn't have, and I think I was down to my last warning going on to the last lap, so then pressure was really on, but yeah, I was able to make sure I was out of that 12-second gap and keep on pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were 10 seconds clear of that 12-second gap coming in, so you did a good job there.
You left it no doubt in terms of the time. So congratulations to you. First win of the season. That was absolutely amazing to watch. From the back after lap 1 all the way to the front. Congratulations on the win, man. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
And now I believe Dastardly has joined us as well.
Yeah. Hello there.
That was some
done,
battle.
Oh, that last stint with Bannister. That was a great race. Brilliant racing. Really enjoyed it.
So we saw after the weather got out of the way, good conditions towards the end of the race, and I think me and Bloom both sort of thought you could get your head down and try to close the gap to old dads out in front, and you seemed to have issues behind you and couldn't really get your head down and try to chase down old dads because Bannister was challenging you so hard.
He just took off. I mean, I knew Bannister was going to be quick, but Aiden just took off up the road. There was just no catching him. No way. The gap was just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
He done really well.
Yeah, we seen Bannister closing the gap to you. I think it was around 2 seconds at one point, and then the AI car of Appleplex sort of came into the session, and I think that really played into Bannister's hand because I think he was held up around turn 4 from Appleplex's car for quite a while.
Yeah, I was a bit wary of him. It was like he was going to give me space, and then he never. It was like, no, I'm just backing out of this until I get a clear run. And we were speaking about it at the time, but it's just where you pass them, isn't it? Sometimes you're lucky.
Yeah.
You get them in the right place, and other times not so lucky. But no, I knew Bannister was going to be quick. He had better downforce. It was just on the straights I managed to take off.
Yeah, and we saw when he closed the gap, he was able to get in front there for, it wasn't even a lap, and then you got him right back, and then he never got you again.
I was saving up the goodies and just using them in the right place, and it just worked out really well.
Brick wall.
Great battle though.
It's the brick wall just to get.
We saw, it was noticeable from me and Bloom's point of view that Bannister seemed to have so much more confidence in that middle sector with maybe more downforce. Was that an intentional strategy from you just to have the straight line speed?
Oh, sorry, you speaking to Bannister?
No, it's to you.
No, I didn't fancy it. I tried it, and I know it's good through Sector 2 and coming up the hill, well, up into Sector 3. But I just fancied dropping a bit and having it on the straight. So it worked out okay. I got a good jump on people in the pits, undercut. Because I know at one point Bannister had like 6-7 seconds on, it came out 2 seconds in front of him. So
yeah, I think Bannister had to serve a 5-second penalty at that point.
Is that what it was?
Because
Right.
there was only you and CHM who didn't get penalties throughout that race.
Okay.
Yeah,
But then obviously Bannister was clear after he'd served his 5-second penalty in the pits, and that was when you managed to reclaim second place from Bannister.
Right on. It was me thinking it was great driving too.
That too.
I think once he was coming up behind you, I think we were expecting it to be a good battle, but ultimately he got past you the one time, but you defended brilliantly.
It was a good
throughout
battle.
that entire stint.
It was tough. It was really, really tough. When he got me around the outside on turn 4, I can't remember how many laps. That was a brilliant pass, but then we just got through the rest of Sector 2-3 and I got the DRS on him again.
Yeah, and we saw once, it seemed like that time when you were behind him, it was, you just breezed past him, but every time he was that close to you, it was so much more difficult for him to get past you because of that low downforce that you had.
I don't know as well. I was using all my airs going up the hill. I didn't use it anywhere else.
Yeah, I think
It
we
was
saw both of you not having much to work with for most of that last stint.
It was good fun. That's all. The last couple of races, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, it was a fantastic show for the Brazilian Grand Prix today, and much enjoyed commentating on it, as much as you probably enjoyed racing it.
Yeah, that was good.
Cheers, guys. It was great fun.
Yeah, congrats again to Old Dad's Rule with that victory. Fantastic performance. And
Well done, man.
Yeah, real
Nice to see
dominant
a new
show
one
there.
up.
that was the Brazilian Grand Prix. We will be back for our season finale next week in Abu Dhabi. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Yep, stay safe, everyone. Well done.